Let me start with you, Josh, and ask you if this is necessarily a good idea. I mean, I know I incur some strange expenses occasionally working on stories that need to be explained in a nuanced way. Won't taxpayers develop a heck of a lot more questions than build faith when they see all of the expenses of Ohio broken down?
I think taxpayers questioning the government is a good thing. This comes down to one basic premise. The people of Ohio and the people of our country, they have a right to know how the money's being spent. And what I'm doing is empowering everyday citizens who yesterday might have felt powerless. Today they feel powerful. I'm empowering them to hold politicians accountable.
Zach, can you explain to us exactly how OpenGov works, what it does?
Sure. OpenGov is the cloud platform that state and local governments around the country use for financial transparency and analysis. So if you're running a government, the platform allows you to put it lightly, see where all the money goes across a very complicated enterprise, and then share that financial data with your elected officials, citizens of the whole world.
So, Josh, what do you hope Ohio citizens will do with this information?
I hope this gives citizens the tools to smoke out waste, fraud, and abuse. Imagine a lady sitting in her kitchen on her computer or at work at her desk computer having the power, $400 billion of state spending right there at her fingertips that she can search, navigate. She can see everything from $2 for a pack of pencils to millions of dollars for expensive road expenditures and everything in between. I think by virtue of putting this information online, it's going to make politicians and bureaucrats think twice before they waste taxpayer money or, even worse, defraud the citizens.
Have there been problems in the past? I mean, when I think of the great state of Ohio, it's the gifts that are the issue, whether it's Bob Taft's rounds of golf or the Ohio State Buckeyes getting free tattoos. It's not really expenditures. We seem to be fairly efficient, I'm an Ohioan, as far as spending taxpayer money.
There's a lot of examples of waste. I mean, we had a lady who sits on one of the pension boards a few years ago. She was adamant that the only place she can get her continuing education was at a conference in Hawaii. And we said, you know what, maybe there's a conference in Cincinnati or somewhere a little closer. After all, this is taxpayer money. And if by putting this information online, it makes public officials think twice before they go to that conference in Hawaii instead of going to the one in Cincinnati, or maybe think twice before they stay at the Ritz-Carlton on taxpayer dime when they could have stayed at the Holiday Inn, I think net-net that's a good thing for citizens throughout our state.
Zach, have you had any discussions with the city of New York about possibly doing the same thing?
We have had a few. We're not working with New York, but we're working with almost 300 governments, cities, counties, school districts, and special districts in 37 states now. So if you went to newhavenct.opengov.com, you could see New Haven, Connecticut's entire budget and historical financial picture and drill down to see where the money's going for snow removal, for instance.
So in those conversations, whether it's with the city of New York or other cities that have chosen not to work with OpenGov, Zach, what kinds of objections or concerns do officials typically raise to the notion that there's something wrong or with transparency?
Well, it's usually just inertia. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of these officials are extraordinarily busy. And the real issue in our eyes is that they're struggling with old technology, with software systems and accounting systems that were written 30 years ago. And so this is a sea change that is taking place, and it's one that actually a lot of government officials around the country are excited about. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of demand from all over the country, from cities like Miami and Pittsburgh and Minneapolis, all the way to small towns and counties in Wyoming.
Do you see demand, Zach? I mean, obviously in the places where the officials are the most corrupt, you're not going to get this through. But what about the citizens of those cities?
Yeah, we're seeing a whole secular trend toward financial transparency. And it's not just transparency. These tools that OpenGov and others can offer are really cutting edge and can be useful in the work that senior executives and elected officials are doing every day. So they need to understand the budget, they need to understand where the money goes, and they need good tools to do their jobs. So there's a lot of internal reporting and analysis that can take place with the same tools that can empower citizens, as the treasurer is talking about.
Josh, very briefly before we go, you're hoping that this empowers, if you will, civic participation. Does it save the state of Ohio any money?
I think over time it will. When we built OhioCheckbook.com, one of the main things I had in mind was creating this army of citizen watchdogs who can hold public officials accountable. And I think now that the public officials are on notice, that the people are watching, the government will be more limited in size and scope, my hope is. And also, as I mentioned earlier, these public officials, whether they're elected politicians or bureaucrats deep in the bowels of the bureaucracy, they're going to think twice before they waste taxpayer money. And yes, I think by virtue of having this information online, it will make government smaller and more efficient.